This review is of Gilded Cage by Vic James. Now, before you go ahead and assume that Vic is Victor, no, Vic is maybe Victoria? I don't know. But a little bit about the author. She's, at the time of writing anyway, she is a current affairs TV director who loves stories in all their forms. Her programs for BBC One have covered the 2016 US presidential election and Britain's EU referendum. She has twice judged The Guardian's Not the Booker Prize. Gilded Cage is her first novel, and an early draft of it won a major online award from Wattpad for most talked about fantasy. She has lived in Rome and Tokyo and currently lives in London. And let's see. So, this story focuses on a family of normal people. And in this universe, the people who are in control all have a range of, I guess you could say, magical abilities, which are called skill. And some people have very weak skill, other people are incredibly strong, and there is the very rare instance where somebody who comes from two families of skill but has none, and it's very rare. In fact, in the story, it's only mentioned that there have been two people, and both of them from the same family tree. And it hints at a specific reason. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that specific reason is because it would be a spoiler. But this is the first book in the series. I enjoyed it. I wasn't really sure what to expect, never having heard of Gilded Cage or Vic James. I just kind of picked this up at random at a little library, and yeah, it was. I liked the premise about the fact that in many countries the world is become dominated by the skilled people because some of them are so powerful that they can basically mow down an entire crowd of people with no effort. They also have the ability to heal themselves, and yeah, it's. The range of skills that you'll see in here are from the horrendous to the miraculously beautiful. And I think that she was inspired by, or not, maybe not inspired by, but she drew on some things that she understands about a certain sector of the top people in the world, which are often referred to as the elite or perhaps the Illuminati or something like that. But this book is allegorical for the attitude and behavior of this group of people, the elites. And the difference being that not only do they have immense wealth and power, but they also have the ability to use their other power, their skill, in many different ways. But it tends to, with the exception of the one person who is from the number one skilled family but has absolutely no skill, it tends to show how ruthless and uncaring they are, and really plays on the revealed fact that when you take two groups of people and you separate them in a way that says you're better, you're worse, that it brings out the worst in the better group. So I'll reference a couple. There was a study, or actually an experiment done, I think it was in the 1960s at a famous university. The professor took his students and they set up a fake prison on the campus somewhere. And some of the students were assigned the task of being guards, and some of the students were tasked to be the prisoners. So they would spend time in the prison, and over the period of the testing of this experiment, the people who were prisoners became more like actual prisoners, and the people who were guards became abusive. At first it was little things, and then it started to get dangerous between the two groups because of them really just taking on the roles to a point that it was not healthy. And eventually the university was forced to shut down the experiment. And it was pretty unfortunate. I don't think anybody was seriously injured or anything like that, but that's one. And then there was another one. There was this lady, she was a primary school teacher, and she wanted to teach the children, because of what had happened with Nazi Germany, she wanted to teach the children that no group is better than any other group. And so one day she told the kids, "Children, I've learned that scientists have discovered that children with blue eyes are superior to children with brown eyes." Apparently they didn't have other colored eyes in that class. And so suddenly all the blue-eyed children were like, "Ah," and all the brown-eyed children were like, and it was immediately acted out by the blue-eyed children on the brown-eyed children that they were better. They started mistreating their friends, and so the next day the teacher came in and she said, "I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. I got it backwards. Actually, the brown-eyed children are better than the blue-eyed children." And all the brown-eyed children perked up and they're like, "Ah!" And the blue-eyed children are like, "Oh no." And so the roles completely reversed. And maybe partially because the blue-eyed children had subjugated the brown-eyed children. The brown-eyed children may have had an aspect of retaliation, revenge, whatnot, in their behavior. But this basically the same dichotomy, the same power imbalance occurred. And then, of course, she let the children know the next day that neither of those was true. And she was very famous. I can't remember the names of these people, but if you look it up, blue-eyed, brown-eyed, and you'll find the information. And this story, Gilded Cage, does this very well. Now, there are some exceptions. There are a small number of skilled people who actually don't like the situation. And what situation is that, you ask? Oh, well, thank you for asking. That situation is that when the skilled rose to domination, they demanded that they be the leaders of their nations. So this is based in the United Kingdom, or Britain, as they say, and all the skilled people are the leaders. Now, there are non-skilled people who are observers of the parliament. However, they can speak and they can observe, but they have no right to vote. And generally, the skilled people look down at them, and these observers don't particularly like the skilled people. So there's a political dynamic going on there. And on top of taking control and taking all power away from regular people, really, they demand that everybody in their life will give up a decade of their lives, at some point, and become slaves of the state. And they have no rights at all. So they can literally be treated as poorly as the skilled and their employees want. So if there's a person who is perceived to have done something wrong, they can be reprimanded, they can be beaten down, they can be killed. And there are supposed to be rules about it, but the rules are largely ignored. So, for example, if you are under a certain age, you must be with your put into when you volunteer. If your child is being volunteered to go with you, your child has to stay with you. But this rule is often ignored. And there are other rules that once you get inside the slave camps, you realize, oh, that was for show. It doesn't actually happen that way. And this is very, very upsetting. And the abuses that the slaves, the regular people, endure during the 10 years of their semi-voluntary enslavement leave a mark on them and are very hard for them. Oftentimes, there is no effort to help each other. And this is because anybody who attempts to help somebody else is often punished. So a lot of people walk around with their heads down. They don't look at each other. They don't greet each other. And it just is very, very unpleasant. So the family is the father and mother, of course, and then the oldest daughter is the one who works to get them onto the property of the of one of the skilled families. Her logic is that the slave camps are famous for their abuse, for their violence, and for the horrible working conditions. So she figures if they're living on the property of a skilled family, they're going to be a lot safer. It'll be a lot easier. And she's very smart, and she figures out how to make that happen. And they get accepted. Then there's her brother who's a year younger, he's 17, and their little sister who's 10, Daisy. And so they get placed with the number one family of skilled, the Jardines. And they're like, the parents and the older daughter, don't tell the boy and the little girl until it's almost time that this is going to happen, which is, very upsetting for them, to have been, they feel, especially the son feels like, gosh, why didn't I have a say in this, So the day comes and they've got everything arranged for their 10-year absence, and a car pulls up, and the lady who's from the labor department says, I'm here to pick up 4 people. And they're like, no, you're supposed to pick up 5 of us, all of us. She said, no, I'm only here to pick up you 2, and then Abby and Daisy. Those are the kids, the girls. They said, well, our son was accepted. She said, oh, well, yeah, well, it didn't work out. They didn't have a place for him on the estate, so he's going to go to Millmore, which is one of the horrible slave camps. And so as they're starting to ask questions, another vehicle pulls up, a van, and it's from Millmore, and the guy gets out, and they start arguing with him, and he's like, I don't give a crap. He's going with me. And the father gets angry and punches him, which is, stupid. And so the guard immediately beats him down. And they start saying, oh, we know our rights. We're going to sue you. And he smiled at them and he said, you're a slave. You don't have any rights. And so they're totally defeated by this. And some of the family members, including Abby, who planned it all out, want to argue with the man, but the boy he realizes, his name is Luke. He realizes that there's no way that they're going to win. So he just says, "It's okay, it's okay. We'll be reunited soon." And the daughters, Abby's saying, "Well, I'll figure out how to get you with us." And so he goes out to Millmore, and he's treated poorly like everybody else, and they go off to the estate. So the story develops from there with some interesting twists. So Luke ends up getting involved with some rebels, and the young daughter, Daisy, ends up being assigned the task of taking care of the illegitimate daughter of the heir to the family. And his name is Gavar, and he's very brutal because his dad has trained him to be brutal. His dad is a horrible human being, and her job is to take care of the baby all the time. And at the very beginning, Gavar makes it clear to her, if anything bad happens to my daughter, it's your fault. So, and you have to understand that in the beginning of the book, you find out that the child was a love child of Gavar and a slave, Leah, and that Leah decided that she needed to escape with her daughter from the estate, and she thought her daughter, being the daughter of a skilled person, would be able to get her out. And it turned out actually that it was partially true, but the daughter was unable to access the gate, which is concealed most of the time, and so Gavar shot and killed her. And one of the other sons was there, and he observed it and made no effort to save her life. So yeah, it's a family secret, the murder of the mother of the child that he adores. And so the story gets pretty interesting. And this is told from the perspectives of the three children. So primarily, however, it's told from the perspectives of Abby and Luke. And so, it bounces back, and we get to see how Luke is working with the rebels and how he's developed a really determined attitude. And we see how Abby is falling in love with the middle son who has no skill, and how that's going. And then things get really, really interesting and tragic. Of course, every good movie has and every good book and every good story has tragedy in it, and this one is no exception. And it's a good book. Is it an amazing book? No. Does it fairly represent the elite? Well, since the story doesn't use anybody from the elites as a main character, it kind of whitewashes them. However, you see hints of not exactly full unity between the elites. Pretty good, but there are a small number of elites who feel badly about the slave situation. Some who want the slave situation to be abolished. But the majority of people, they're special, and regular humans are not special, and they don't deserve to be treated specially according to the skill. So I'm looking forward to reading the next book in the series. I'm not sure what it's called, but hopefully I can find it and read it. I will give this book a 7. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.